Hi, my name is Victoria. I'm doing this as part of my assessment for a Masters in Social Policy. This is Module 3, it's on Globalisation and Global Social Policy. So start off by saying that I found it incredibly difficult to get all this together. It's such a massive subject and we're only given quite a small word count. And so it's so interesting, and everything is, you research something and then you kind of follow that on and then you find something else. So it's taken me a long time to get this together. But what I've discovered about global social policy, and that's really, I found very fascinating and interesting, is that it's really helped me to kind of relax when it comes to terms of my control in my life. Because learning about organisations and globalisation and how minuscule we are as human beings, as individuals, has kind of left me kind of not worried about anything. I recognise that I can only achieve so much in my life, and it's really important. If you want to make a difference in the world, then we're not going to be looking at joining the World Bank and the UN. But what we have to be doing is thinking about how we work better in our communities, how we are a better sister, wife, husband, father, whatever. And going out into your community and doing nice things, being kind, giving back to your community, because that actually, I've discovered, is the only really way we're going to have any agency in terms of individuals. So I'd like to try and do a quick rundown of what I looked at. But so it was about globalisation. It was about how countries have become so intertwined with each other that a country can no longer look at its policy as just domestic. And so we have to start looking outside due to migration and market trade, and the fact that we can go online and buy something from Malaysia and it's our door in 3 days. So it very much explained how social policy has to be considered and compared to other countries, often with masses of differences in terms of beliefs and cultures and religions, etc., and understanding of trade. We as a consumerist society love to buy things, but actually it doesn't make us happy. Who are we to say what's happy, and who are we to say that our policies are the ones that work and therefore everyone should use them? So globalisation obviously is the infrastructure and transport and communication becoming much smaller in time and space, as we impacted on each other, particularly after the Second World War, when there was a lot of infrastructure damage and money was required to build that, companies and organisations like the World Bank started lending money to countries to rebuild their infrastructure. I'm guessing in a way really to enhance market trade, and so they can start trading with them in terms of economics. After that had been built, they went into development, and so they would give money to a country to develop some aspect of it relating to either welfare or income or welfare or trade. So then what happens is that the World Bank, who predominantly has the biggest shares for the World Bank in terms of voting, belong to America with like 350,000 votes, twice that of the next person. So the concern is that actually Western countries who predominantly have voting powers in these organisations then start to put conditions on their loans called structural adjustment programs. And what they say is, we'll give you the money if you do X, Y, Z. So things like if you cut some social spending on welfare and bring in and open and deregulate trade, so that we can come in and provide private services, much like the NHS in this country, in terms of let's not have it as a state-funded source, let's have it as a competitive system. Same with education, the same with, in terms of poverty. So basically these governments, often corrupt, would take the money from the World Bank, not always spend it on how they're supposed to spend it. Massively, money got drained out into individuals, and so the people as a whole never saw it, and creating mass poverty, famine, crashes of markets, etc., etc. And so I started to realise actually that the World Bank, if you talk about in terms of who's killed the most people, then I started thinking, oh my God, people like the World Bank and the IMF have actually killed more people than any war put together, in terms of the amount of people who have died in famines and because of disease. HIV records, instances have risen in countries where have had support from the World Bank in terms of funding. And so actually, I really encourage you to go and look at this stuff. I mean, this is obviously a 5-minute part of history, but it's super fascinating. It's amazing to understand where we sit as individuals amongst all of this. And like I said before, all we can do in terms of our agency is to be good to those around us in the hope that that will ripple out and we can make a difference to the people around us. Now, I'm going to have this video as my only copy because I want it to have all the mistakes in. And in a minute, I'm going to say to my husband, can you turn the phone off? So thank you for listening. It was probably a bit mumbled and garbled, but I really, 2 things out of it really: be amazing to the people around you and yourself, and start to take an interest in social policy, and not just politics, but in terms of how it really affects us as human beings and as a global civil society. Chris, could you please turn the phone off? Thank you.